Welcome, friends. It's time for the Bin Bin. This is if you listen to the main episode, you will know that this is a special holiday edition of the Bin Bin, actually being filmed on July 6th, because I fucked up the recording that we already had. A flawless Bin Bin with me and Gorio, both super fans of this particular film, an absolute masterpiece, masterclass in suspense filmmaking from Sir Alfred Hitchcock. Of course, we're talking about 1960s Psycho, starring Janet Leigh and Anthony Perkins. This movie is very near and dear to, I would hope, a lot of people's hearts, but my heart, my father Gorio's heart. Howell, I'm not sure if he's seen it or not, but I'm sure he'll appreciate listening to this episode himself. I do have some little fun fact notes down here to help me add a little more, sprinkle a little more in. My goal, I stated on the Lost recording, is I want to keep improving every week, obviously, and I want to give you guys a look, since we're only doing Act 1 of these films for the Bin Bin, I want to give you a look at what you would be getting on the Patreon. So I thought that I better start pulling some more facts, and you guys can let me know what else that I need to improve on, as far as like what you would like to hear about these movies that I'm not covering very well. But I think giving people Act 1, I guess my goal is to give you enough that it would lead you to listen to a Patreon episode, which would allow us to devote more time to recording and even more time to other projects. With our busy schedules, if we had money coming in due to people actually enjoying our stuff, but well down the line. But I got to put it out there. If you guys want that Patreon, I will do it, even if there's just a couple of you. I really like talking about movies. So this one, I know forwards and backwards better than I know my own hands. We start out with Mr. Sam Loomis and Miss Marion Crane, who, first fun fact, named Mary Crane in the book. Sam Loomis was Sam Loomis, but Mary Crane was her name in the book. I think Marion Crane does just sound like a better name, but I have known more men named Marion at this point in my life than I have women, so I guess it's kind of funny. Those unisex names like that are quite interesting. It's entirely based on personal experience, whether you think it's a man's name or a woman's name. It's like a Terry or a Tristan or a Kelly, you know. Even a Kim, I've heard, but that's unacceptable. And that may or may not be the first name of a particular stupid bitch from the main episode that tried to deprive me of air conditioning. So go listen to that if you're curious about that story. So as I said, we open on Marion Crane, as I stated in the beginning, played by Janet Leigh, who is the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis, star of another massive horror movie, Halloween, you may have heard of. So, mother and daughter absolutely killing it out here. Sam Loomis is played by John Gavin, who was actually Ronald Reagan's U.S. ambassador to Mexico during his presidency. And perhaps could have been a fine president himself. He's taller, better looking, and a better actor than Ronald Reagan, so maybe could have been a better president even. But I digress. They are in a hotel, clearly having just done something that you wouldn't really want to show on screen at that time. Quite scandalous behaviors. They're not married and they're engaging in hotel room activities. But he's walking around in pants and no shirt. She's walking around in a white bra and panties. And keep in mind that that is a white bra and panties that she is walking around in at this point. And they're discussing their future. She wants to know why they can't get married. He's like, you know why we can't get married. I'm still paying my ex-wife alimony, and I'm not marrying somebody that I can't afford to pay for their life the way that I should be able to. You know, this is 1960. He's a prideful man. He wants to be sure that he is the provider for the family. And little insight from reading the novel, she doesn't feel like she's getting any younger, so this is why she keeps pressing the issue, and they go back and forth. He's like, oh, what are you going to do, lick the stamps for my alimony checks? And she goes, I'll lick the stamps. And you go, all right, just wipe the stamp on your pussy a little bit, I think should do the trick, since you're clearly so wet about these alimony checks that he's sending off. I don't know. She's just excited at the prospect of getting married, but it's just, it's kind of crazy how she says she'll lick like she can't wait to lick the stamps. And it's like, I get what you're saying, but maybe just don't make it about this. Like, he is sending, the stamp is to send money to a woman that he used to fuck, so maybe don't get so horny about it. Scratch my nose a little. We leave them. She kind of says, I gotta rush back to work. He's like, oh, can't we leave together? She goes, well, I'm dressed and you're not, so bye. And she grabs her white purse and leaves. And as she's walking into her office building, she works at a real estate office. You'll notice, if you pause, you might have to pause to notice this. There is a strapping young man with his back turned and a cowboy hat standing just outside the office on the sidewalk that you can view through the window of the office. And that is Sir Alfred Hitchcock himself, doing a Stan Lee-like cameo, predating Stan Lee by far. I wonder who the first person was to just start making things and then going, I'm going to put myself in all this shit. Just sprinkle it in. But was it Mr. Hitchcock? Sir Alfred Hitchcock? Was it him? Who knows? Let us know in the comments section. That's fun trivia. Somebody look that up. And so she's sitting there, her coworker Caroline, played by Pat Hitchcock, Alfred's daughter. She goes, oh, what's wrong? And Marion's like, I just got another one of my headaches. And so Caroline's like, oh, you should take one of these. The doctor gave them to me not long ago. Harry was furious when he found out I'd taken tranquilizers. And so Marion's like, no, no, I'm good. I'll just muddy through it, you know. And then her boss, Mr. George Lowry, played by Vaughn Taylor, comes strolling in, accompanied by Mr. Tom Cassidy, played by Albert Linville, and he's an oil man. But he's more of this type of oil man. He comes in, he's like, hey, sweetie, well, here, take this money, and plops down 40 grand cash in an envelope. He's like, yeah, this here's 40 grand. I don't tote around more than I can afford to lose. It's just for my daughter's wedding present. No big deal. I'm buying her a house. And you guys might be interested to know that $40,000 in 1960 is equivalent to about $450,000 today. So he just drops a cool $500,000 cash on the desk and is like, nah, don't matter if I lose that or not. Don't lose it, but, you know, I could. Just saying, hey, sweetie, you want to go for a spin? You know, he starts flirting with Marion, and she's like, she's not really having it. She sees that money, and her eyes kind of light up, and she's like, Mr. Lowry, I've got a headache. I'll just go ahead and take this down to the bank right now, and then I'll head home. I'm not gonna nothing suspicious. He's like, oh yes, of course, I know all about your headaches. Just go on. See you on Monday. Good information. This is a Friday evening, so I mean, this stupid motherfucker really believes she's gonna go to the bank with the money. Obviously, she goes right home, changes into an evil black bra and panties. I don't co-sign this, but Mr. Hitchcock is telling us white is good, black is bad. This dates back to who knows, but we can at least. I would say let's blame Alfred E. Newman for it. It's Spy versus Spy. Sorry for the camera wobble. That was my fat little bitch cat Luna. She likes when I call her a fat bitch. It's a term of endearment. You should have heard earlier her sister Sunflower that you've seen on the podcast. She likes being called a fat bitch too, and she weighs about half what Luna weighs. It's just about being all inclusive in this household. So Marion and I do apologize for my nose itching, folks. But I am not picking it. I do pick it, but I am not right now. I wouldn't on camera. I would lean like this and pick it and flick it and go, anyway. No, I wouldn't do that. So, we've got Marion in her black bra and panties, now evil, packing a suitcase with the money sitting on her bed. So you're like, she's going somewhere and the money's not at the bank, which is now closed. What's going on there, Marion? And she proceeds to just head on the road, and you're like, all right, maybe she's on the way to the bank. Who knows? Maybe she is on the way to the bank and she just decided she's gonna go run away to Sam's. You got to think positively. She's not evil. We've seen 5 minutes of this lady, and just, she seems nice enough. So she gets stopped at a stoplight, and there's a crosswalk, and who should be crossing the crosswalk right at this time but Mr. George Lowry? And he turns and makes direct eye contact with her, and she smiles and waves and then kind of goes, oh. And he's like, wait a fucking minute. This bitch is supposed to be asleep at home. She told me she had a headache. What is she doing? I can see her suitcase in the back seat. That's fucking odd. Oh well, I'm sure nothing. And he just kind of moseys on. And you can see the change in her face as she's driving along now. She's extremely nervous. She's like, I'm fucking busted. She starts hearing voices in her head. And so she drives along. It gets dark. She gets tired, and the headlights are blinding at nighttime. Fun fact number 2 or 3 now: the headlight effect was created by them strapping spotlights to a large drum and spinning it behind the car so that it was hitting it in the rear view and reflecting back into her eyes, so it got to be a more realistic night blindness kind of effect on her, and realistic reactions of that for the viewer's purpose. I mean, the driving scenes do seem fairly real for it being 1960, truthfully. So she stops for the night, and then she is awoken by a rapping on the window. It's a scary-looking police officer with aviators. He's actually a highway patrolman, played by Mort Mills. And Mr. Mort Mills, who does not get his own name in this, he is just California Highway Patrol. He's startled a little bit that she tries to immediately put the key in the ignition and peel out, and he's like, whoa! I'm a police officer. I'm gonna need you to fucking put the key down and roll your window down and speak to me. So she rolls the window down. She's like, oh, I haven't done anything wrong, have I? He's like, I don't know. Have you? That's a fucking weird, I was doing more of a welfare check, but you seem like you have done something wrong. Yes. What it is, I don't know. And she's like, oh, surely nothing. Like, I need to just be on my way. He's like, I don't know, license and registration. She goes, why? Bitch, you could not be acting any more suspicious at this moment. So she somehow gets through that interaction without him seeing the cash that she so slyly stuffs back into her purse as she's like turned around, glancing over her shoulder at him like, are you seeing what I'm doing? And he follows her for a little bit after she takes off, but then he goes away on his own exit, and she decides to pull into the nearest car dealership at, I guess, right when they open, and begins high-pressuring California Charlie, played by John Anderson. And he's like, whoa, don't you want to test drive it? Don't you want to look around a little more? She's like, no, I'd like to trade in my vehicle and get a different vehicle now. He's like, well, I gotta say, that's pretty odd. Usually it's me being the pushy one. She's like, no, what'll it be? I want this one. He goes, oh, I don't know, say your car plus $700. And she goes, all right, do you have a ladies' room? He's like, don't you want to, to have the usual day and a half to think it over? No, I don't want any time to think it over. Do you have a ladies' room? So she goes in there, gets the $700 cash, gives it to him, and then, notices that the cop has pulled in across the street. Mr. California Highway Patrol is over there staring her down with his aviators. And so she gets incredibly nervous and just like grabs the keys to the new car, jumps in, starts it, and starts to take off. And you see the guy pull up in her old vehicle behind her and go, hey! And she's like, huh? And at this point, the cop is like already across the street. So she's getting more and more nervous. And the guy's like, you forgot your luggage. So she's like, oh, huh. And grabs the luggage real quick and then fucking peels out. And the cop comes over and talks to the salesman. Salesman's like, I don't know, does she look like a wrong one to you? And he goes, well, acted like one. And of course, then she's driving along and starts hearing the voices in her head again. Their conversation continuing, and then Mr. Lowry and Mr. Oilman, Tom Cassidy, discussing the stolen money and how she's picturing that Mr. Cassidy wants to see her head on a platter for it, and that kind of gets her jollies going. She starts smiling as you hear her thinking that. And the way that they created this effect is they actually had the actors who played those characters live on stage saying those lines so that she could react in real time. And I would like to think that it made a huge difference in the filming of it, because you can tell. I mean, it's like you're really seeing her inner thoughts. Janet Leigh does a phenomenal job, and obviously at the direction of Sir Alfred Hitchcock. So she runs into a little bit of rain as she's moving along this time, and she gets a little lost and pulls off of the main highway here and finds herself at the Bates Motel, which some of you may know from the more modern show Bates Motel. Obviously, this is where it came from. Well, Robert Bloch's novel, as I said at the beginning, is where it came from. And actually, a little fun fact about that. Alfred Hitchcock was just a huge fan of the Robert Bloch novel after it came out. He tore through it and he was like, I have to make a movie about this. He owed Paramount one more film on a deal that he had signed. And they wanted something specific, like an old school Hitchcock thriller. And they didn't like the idea of him making a slasher movie like this. They thought that slasher movies were low budget garbage no matter what. So he was like, all right, I owe you one more movie and this is the one I'm making, so fuck you. And they were like, all right, well, also kind of fuck you, but we accept. And here's 800,000, even though we would have given you probably a couple mil if you would have made what we wanted. And he's like, nah, no worries. He gets together his Alfred Hitchcock Presents crew from the classic anthology series. I just want to flex on you guys with the physical media right here. It is very important that you guys invest in that, as I said on the main episode. If you go toward the end of that, you'll get a little bit of rant. The I'm Pissed segment pretty much carried us through a whole half of an episode there. But obviously the Alfred Hitchcock Presents crew does a phenomenal job. And they film in black and white, even though they could have filmed in color, which was the right choice for this film. Relying on gore ends up making the movie funny. Doing it in a clever, suspenseful way, the way that Hitchcock did it, is really more of a skill, and it sits with you a lot longer, I think, after you've watched the film, because it just makes you uncomfortable the whole time. There are some laughs in the movie. There's one point when a man is like tiptoeing backwards down the stairs, and he hits every step with his feet on the way down and then falls after having been stabbed. So there's some stuff that's a little like, all right. But you'll have that with any scary movies, I think. And then a little other sidebar about that novel is because there's such a twist in this movie that's actually coming up. Hitchcock didn't want anybody to have that spoiled for them, so he had his assistant go around and buy up all the copies of the novel in the area and just, I guess, keep them in a secret bunker somewhere to keep them away from the prying eyes of the public. So, enough with the sidebars. We'll get back to the movie. She stops at the Bates Motel because it's rainy, and she honks and looks up at the house that's across the lot up on a hill, and the lights pop on. And this is your first glance of Mr. Norman Bates, played by Anthony Perkins, as I mentioned at the beginning. And he's a nervous yet strapping young man. And he's like, oh, you need a room? Sorry, we don't really get many visitors, blah, blah, blah. She signs a fake name. She uses the name Marie Samuels, which is just like right spot on. Her name is Marion and her boyfriend's name is Sam. They even make that like a very obvious point later in the movie. But she signs that, says she's from Los Angeles or wherever, and he gives her a key to cabin number 1. He even hesitates, almost gives her the room key to another cabin, but he's like, nah, cabin number 1. And he gives her one of the 2 keys on the hook, which immediately, if she was paying any attention, I would be like, hey, run me that other key, dude. You don't need that while I'm staying here. I'll call you if I need help. So they get to talking, and he's like, hey, since it's raining and there's nothing close by, maybe you want to come up to the house and have dinner. She's like, oh, I wouldn't want to be any trouble. He's like, oh, no trouble at all. I'll go let Mother know that you're coming up. So he goes up there, and they get into an argument, and then he comes back down with, I guess, like peanut butter sandwiches and milk. And she invites him into the room to eat dinner with her, and he kind of steps forward a little bit, and then he steps back, and he's like, I don't know. Maybe it'd be more comfortable in the parlor, which is just his office, like right off of cabin number one, basically. Back behind the check-in counter that she was just at signing in. So they're back there in the parlor. Norman is sitting there surrounded by birds of prey, hawks and owls, and Marion is surrounded by some songbirds, all stuffed birds all around, but very intentional placement of these birds that I'll get to momentarily. I mean, it's hard to avoid spoilers for something like this that's been around for 66 years already. But I will try to avoid the spoilers for those of you who don't want them. They're sitting there talking, and he kind of reveals that it's just him and his mom there, and he takes care of the motel, and she's kind of sick, and she kind of keeps him under her thumb a little bit, and Marion kind of gets to the point where she's like, I don't know, why don't you just fucking stick her in a home and do what you want? And he's like, how fucking dare you say some shit like that? And starts getting all fired up on her. He's like, you don't know what it's like for her. I couldn't put her there. That's for crazy people, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, I'm really sorry I said anything at all. He's like, oh, yeah, well, you know, back to nervous boy, but the facade cracked a little bit right there. You see that he's maybe not as stable as he seemed initially. So she immediately kind of finds an excuse to mosey on out of the parlor. She's like, I need to get to bed. I need to get out of these clothes, take a shower, get to bed, and head out early in the morning. He's like, oh, all right, you know, sounds good. So she goes into her room and begins to undress, and he goes over to put away the logbook, and he takes a peek at the name. Before she had gone off to her room, she let slip that her name was Miss Crane. And the logbook obviously says Marie Samuels, so he's like, lion bitch, interesting. He just chuckles to himself a little, and then I guess that makes him think, all right, well, since she's a scumbag, and he moves back this picture frame in the parlor, and he's got himself a little peephole right into the bathroom of cabin number one. So maybe he just got the idea to peep on her, or maybe when he hesitated earlier and then decided she needed to be in that cabin number, that's when he decided he was going to peep on her. Regardless, incredibly invasive and disgusting behavior from Mr. Bates. Shame on you, Norman. And Miss Crane gets in the shower and really starts enjoying the hot water. I mean, like, really enjoying the hot water. More than I've ever seen anybody enjoy it in my life. And I do understand, but you would think she had never had a hot shower before the way she acted. And you see the water start to take down the hairspray chunks of her hair piece by piece. They all had that damn... I mean, I can't really say anything, but, you know, the crispy look to it back then. And she's eyes closed the whole time, as you do in the shower. You don't want to see anything at all. And she doesn't see or hear the door open behind her and someone creep up and then fling the curtain open. And at that moment that the curtain flings open, that's when she realizes she's fucked. So, butcher knife comes down, the classic that, if you've ever seen any of that, dun 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 dun, that's from Psycho, if y'all didn't know. And then she lays there dead on the floor. Obviously, Miss Janet Leigh was actually alive while filming, and had to be in the most uncomfortable position. It looked like she was basically doing a headstand with her neck all cricked sideways and her eye wide open so they could get a nice close-up shot of her supposedly dead eyeball. And then, the classic shot of the blood, a.k.a. Hershey's syrup, swirling down the drain. And that's where we're going to leave off as far as describing the movie for the Bin Bin. I will say that those birds of prey and songbirds that I mentioned that were surrounding those two characters in the parlor, Norman being surrounded by the birds of prey symbolizes the overbearing mother, and Marion obviously being surrounded by the songbirds indicated that she was the prey. Because it does appear, I guess I'll give you a little bit more. After she dies, then Norman, you hear him from the house go, "Oh, mother, the blood, what have you done?" And he goes down and discovers what happened. So, at this point, you're supposed to suspect that the mother has done it. The sickly, frail old mother that wanted nothing to do with Marion being in her home. So it does seem plausible. And for those of you who know, please don't spoil it in the comments for people who don't. And for those of you who don't know, I hope you enjoyed and will watch and then will beg for the deep dives. I've got more facts where that came from, but I'm going to go ahead and call it for the Bin Bin this week. And hopefully you enjoyed the solo format, but I will try not to subject any of you folks to that any more than I have to. All right. Peace.